in, as long as someone can continue to allow folks in, I will kick things off. So good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us for another edition of Blue Raster's webinar series. Something new and exciting that we're doing here in 2026 to showcase the great skills and capabilities of our different disciplines and our different teams. So today we're really excited to talk about our experiences and best practices around smarter parcel management and how this applies to out-of-the-box and custom workflows in ArcGIS Pro, and a little bit of an introduction to the ArcGIS Parcel Fabric. So if that is why you came here today, that's great, and let's jump in. All right. So to quickly introduce the folks that will be leading our call today, I'm Chris Gabris. I am the Director of State and Local Government here at Blue Raster. I'm based in the Washington, D.C. area. Along with me, we have Ben Masters, a project manager based in North Carolina. Nate Lichtig is going to be monitoring our chat for the discussion later, and he's a project manager based in San Antonio. And our senior GIS consultant, Mary Bracho, also based in the DC area, is going to be walking everyone through some of our parcel management concepts and examples. But before we get into the parcels, I just want to share a little bit about Blue Raster. We are a small business, an Esri Gold business partner, and a full-service GIS firm headquartered in Northern Virginia. And we support clients all around the United States and globally as well. We were founded in 2002, and just last week we celebrated our 24th anniversary. We specialize in interactive web and mobile application design and development, advanced GIS analysis and visualizations, and enabling our partners to tap into the full power of GIS technology, which includes parcel management workflows and solutions. We are experts at navigating the ArcGIS platform and hold multiple specialties, including Esri's parcel management. But we've also found to be really applicable for the parcel editing workflows is a deep understanding from our experience working with many city and county governments on projects like this. And so that is why examples like our cloud services and the experience around the infrastructure, the architecture, installations and migrations for ArcGIS Enterprise, as well as having, if applicable, a really strong foundation with ArcGIS Online, having that environment properly tuned is key to not only managing your data, but all these parcel workflows and solutions that would be built on top of that. So our parcel management experience runs deep. We've supported land records and parcel workflows for over 15 years. We provide continuous GIS and IT support for the infrastructure and maintenance of ArcGIS Enterprise environments. And we help our partners achieve their goals with rapid and cost-effective solutions. We do this by understanding your needs. We want to know, where are you starting from? Where are you trying to go? What have you tried? What are your pain points? And while many of the workflows that we're going to show here this afternoon are repeatable or configurable, one of the areas where we really differentiate ourselves is the ability to offer custom solutions that match your organization's data structure, your data needs, and really just to be able to best support your goals. So now that you know a little bit more about us, we want to know a little bit more about you and what brought you here today. So we have a link here. I believe we have 3 questions sort of queued up. You can answer these as we're going through the presentations, but at the end, we'll take a little bit of time to share some insights and see if there's any patterns or anything interesting that jumps out. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ben to start to talk to us about parcels.
Great. Thank you, Chris, and thank you everyone for taking some time out of your afternoons to be here with us today. Before we get into some of the solutions that Mary's going to run through later in the webinar, I want to take a quick step back and look at the current reality of a lot of parcel workflows right now. The challenge with modernization isn't always isn't doing the work necessarily. It's that a lot of these processes and workflows live in people's heads. So the first challenge we often run into is that these workflows are highly detail intensive. Even a small mistake like a missed field or an incorrect sequence in an edit could lead to downstream errors, causing rework and causing you to spend more time to fix those things. Second, as we mentioned, these are knowledge dependent. So the right way to handle a situation or troubleshoot something or complete a task isn't always documented, and it depends on your experience or who you ask to complete that successfully. And because of that, these workflows become more time consuming. Editors spend more time navigating the process or the troubleshooting rather than actually completing the edits they need to make to complete their daily goals. So what this leads to is inconsistency, slower onboarding and more room for errors. And this is exactly where the opportunity to make workflows more guided, more consistent, and less dependent on memory comes into play. And we're going to talk about how we've done that through the lens of ArcGIS Pro and modernizing. So through Blue Raster's work with a lot of state and local governments, these are three core pillars that we found to really help guide us to success with parcel modernization efforts. The first one being is to guide the user. So we need to make the right next step obvious and not something that someone has to remember how to do. Two is we need to prevent errors early. So we need to stop bad edits at the source and implement rules and validations that catch these things. And finally, a big barrier to entry for modernizing your parcel workflows is the difference in experience between ArcMap and ArcGIS Pro. We don't want to disrupt what works, meaning we want to bring the same user experience and even some of the same user interfaces from ArcMap into Pro, and we'll be exploring some of the techniques we've utilized to do that here in a little bit. So these are just guiding principles, like I said, that have been commonly tied to our successful projects with modernizing parcel workflows. And as we go through the slides and examples and case studies, we're going to explore how these three pillars tie back to each of the methodologies coming up. So with that, let's move into what actually changes in ArcGIS Pro. Whether you're still in ArcMap or you've moved into Pro already, we can all attest that ArcMap had a long and memorable run, and we've all celebrated it in different ways. We've even had some colleagues attend Viking funerals to send off ArcMap into the sunset. But all jokes aside, this means that change is unavoidable. And what that means for you as a parcel or tax mapping professional is that you should be supported in your goals to modernize your parcel workflows. So with that, I'm going to pass it along to Mary, and she's going to talk about 4 techniques that we've used, how they all relate together and how they relate back to our pillars. And we'll tie those into some case studies. And yeah, Mary, take it away.
Thanks, Ben, and welcome everyone. Yeah, so we are going to be expanding on these 4 possible approaches that an organization can use to improve their parcel workflows in ArcGIS Pro, making a more smarter parcel management effort. We do want to flag really early on that these are not supposed to be in any particular sequence, and you don't have to do all of them, right? These are just options that we've seen success on, and depending on your biggest challenges, maybe you can see an easy win at the end of this through one or many of these approaches. So quickly, we're going to talk about tasks, and this is directly supporting our first pillar, guide the user, removing the need for people to remember complex workflows and click patterns, attribute rules, connected to that prevent errors early pillar rather than caching issues after the fact. Attribute rules helps us build in quality control throughout the workflows through calculations, constraints, and validation rules. Custom add-ins, this is where we are going to talk to that don't disrupt what works pillar. So your team is dependent on very specific tools, and the goal is not to just replace them. It's to carry on that familiar workflow forward into the new environment with the opportunity to provide enhancements. And then Last but not least, Parcel Fabric, and this is the modernization piece designed for organizations that are ready to adopt a more complete system of record and building on all three pillars. As we go through the rest of these slides and even some of the case studies, I would welcome you to think where it makes the most sense for your organization to start or to take the next step. Whether you're preparing for Parcel Fabric implementation and you want to see a little bit more like success cases, or you are just looking for a way to improve how you're working ArcGIS Pro today. So again, you don't need to do all of these at once. You can just focus here on where your workflows are slowing you down and how you can get an easy win. So with that, when you're migrating from ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro, tasks is one of the quickest wins for editor buy-in, right? So you're going to be going through a major change, but here's a tool to help you. So tasks are pre-configured steps that guide you or others through a workflow or your business process. But what do these matter? Why is it key to success? Well, editors don't have to rely on memory to complete a task. Your onboarding or staff augmentation becomes easier and more efficient. And you're bringing context exactly where it's needed through instructions or hints or even like field guidance right in the moment of the edit, not later. If you're going to be implementing tasks or you're already implementing tasks, just a quick kind of reminder. Tasks are configured by referencing a map in your ArcGIS Pro project. So when you're sharing it with others, remember to update that reference map so that you don't hit an error when trying to run them in a new Pro session on a different computer for a different user. Alrighty, so attribute rules. We're going to be shifting into that second pillar of preventing errors early. And there are 3 types of attribute rules that you can configure within ArcGIS Pro. I want you to think of attribute rules as like layers of defense. So you're going to use your calculation rules to keep your data consistent automatically. You're going to use constraint rules to stop bad edits before they even happen. And then your validation rules, those are like ways of flagging issues for a later review. So this means fewer downstream errors, less rework, and more confidence in your actual data. But let's dive into these a little bit deeper. For calculation rules, these are automatically triggered on events like insert, update, or delete, and they handle very repetitive work that used to be manual, like populating acreage from your geometry, updating the municipality field based on an intersection with one of your administrative boundaries, or keeping records, related records, and layers synced. So think your road center lines, you want to make sure if you delete one, you can also then delete the respective nodes that you have so you don't have orphan nodes around, right? So by automating these things, you're not only saving time, but you are improving consistency across your data sets. Same naming conventions, deleting all things that are related to each other or creating them. So one useful tip that I wanted to give everyone who is using calculation attribute rules or looking to use them is that if you're using ArcGIS Pro 3 or 4, in ArcGIS 3.4 or greater, triggering fields will be your best friend. So triggering fields, I would recommend you set them for each of your rules because it's going to make running the rules more efficient. There's going to be less triggering events or more intentional triggering events for your rules. So that's why staying current really matters. Constraint rules. So this is taking it one step further. So this actually stops invalid edits to happen when you're doing editing workflows for parcel management. So if someone tries to enter a character that it's not part of your business logic for parcel IDs, it could throw an error and stop and tell the editor that it cannot add that, cannot complete an editing transaction. Or creating like overlap geometries where they're not supposed to be. This is a big shift though, so we're moving away from traditional workflows where your errors are discovered much later in the editing. But this is one of the strongest ways that we can tie back to that prevent errors early pillar. A useful tip here for constraint rules is that give your end user as much information as you possibly can through the error message so that the troubleshooting is fast. They're not spending a lot of time guessing why there's an error or why they can't complete an edit. Something that we've done in the past is like given values that it received versus what it's expecting. Maybe that could be kind of that error messaging that you can configure. And then the last type of attribute rule is the validation type. So unlike the constraint rule, it won't like stop your editor in place, but it will flag them for review. So think of this as like ideal for workflows where you have reviews. So your quality assurance checks, your batch validation that happen much later in the process of your parcel editing and management. So some of you may have like PowerShell scripts that run on a task scheduler at the end of the week and then report back which parcels don't meet your business logic. What about now introducing them in the editing process? You are empowering your editors to go through the whole process in one session. So like validating topology, you can validate your attribute rules utilizing the error inspector and return a list of records that need attention. This is, again, still tied to preventing errors early, but it supports an iterative workflow instead of stopping the entire workflow. A useful tip is that validation attribute rules do actually update your schema. So think of this before enabling them. They do impact editor tracking. But yeah, that's just what we wanted to share here. At this point, we've covered the 2 out of 4 approaches, the tasks, attribute rules, and how they map directly to the pillars that Ben identified. But now we're going to kind of shift over to a real world example where we're demonstrating the rest of the approaches.
All right. Thank you, Mary. I'm going to take us through the example of our work in Moore County, North Carolina. A little bit of background, the tax mappers and appraisers at Moore County, North Carolina were kind of the last holdouts on ArcMap. There were mandates from their IT department that ArcMap needed to be deprecated internally, and ArcGIS Pro needed to begin being used. And the challenge there is that they were forced to continue using ArcMap due to custom toolbars that were performing a lot of the tax mapping and tax appraisal steps every day. So we were brought on to help them with this transition. Now, there were challenges that we knew about going into it. Some of them being these day-to-day workflows were critical to downstream things happening in the county related to taxes. So the ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro migration couldn't have delays or cause tax or parcel edits to stop. The change management was going to be really important to the folks we were working with at the county. Like I said earlier, the barrier to entry is often that user experience going into Pro. Well, utilizing our custom ArcGIS Pro add-ins, that's an area we were able to address. And we wanted that one-to-one user experience to find parity, but we also were able to add some enhancements, which we'll go into here in a little bit. And then finally, there were some technical challenges, namely that the source code didn't exist. This was a decade-old custom toolbar in ArcMap, so we had to reverse engineer these tools, and it was even in a different programming language. So our team had to think a little bit differently about how to create the ArcGIS Pro custom add-ins. Now, I want to share what these tools actually were. For the tax mappers, it was a set of tools related to the editing of their parcel data sets. So whether they're creating or splitting parcels, things like the pin tool, would allow them to generate a pin using the specific North Carolina state logic for pins. It would calculate, other fields based on intersections with administrative layers, all on one click. So that's that same user experience, not disrupting what works. The other tools would handle things like summing dimensions and placing annotations in the right places on the map. And you can see over on the right side what those look like in ArcMap up top, and then a little bit of a teaser about that same kind of ribbon in ArcGIS Pro. The appraisers actually were taking ArcMap into the field in a disconnected state and searching the data set using their tools. So their tools were a little bit simpler. They were one-stop shops to search for parcel information, whether that was by PIN, by street name, by address, etc. They needed to click a button, have a dialog box open up, enter their search term, and have it return the right parcel while they're in the field, so they weren't wasting time. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Mary. She's going to talk through how we approached this set of challenges with the county and what the results ended up being.
Awesome, thank you. We first started with a very robust and intentional discovery and planning phase. Again, our biggest challenge was that we didn't have the source code to simply kind of retrofit and move to ArcGIS Pro. So what this means is that we had to work really hand in hand with the county staff who actually worked with these tools to talk through, what did they do? What were the tools that they relied on? What was the expected visible, but also like behind the scenes expected behavior that we should be aware of? What were the workflows that could not change in order to avoid breaking processes that the staff depended on? There you go. And then once we were able to identify all of those things, we opened the door to talking enhancements and nice to haves, right? So once we had all that information, the next step was next slide, an iterative development. So we had a building cycle that incorporating that feedback from the end user. So what that means is that we're able to catch issues early on and ensure that the tool actually matches real world. One of the things that made this complex is that because we didn't have the source code and because some of this has been used for over 10 years, right? Some of the behaviors that they were expecting, they didn't realize that the tool was doing. So we gave a version and it's like, well, these fields didn't get calculated. And we're like, oh, we didn't capture that in the initial discovery phase. So that's why being able to have iterative development is really key. And just to note that for this project and for any future project, I think your experience and your intimate knowledge is what is the key to unlocking a project success. Okay, so what does this look like? What is the result of all of this work? So for the text mappers, we made sure that continuity was key here. We were able to move them from ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro without losing productivity. And the tools worked the same way that they did, while also being able to enhance some of the functionality that they had pinpoint for a couple of years that the tool wasn't supported. So what does this mean? A tax mapper, like you see on the screen, can come in and create a new parcel polygon. The parcel polygon will kick off a set of actions behind the scene. So it's going to calculate area. It's going to fill in values based on intersections with administrative layers. It is going to create an annotation feature. But it's not only going to create it and place it randomly. It's going to look at where's the centroid of the polygon. But taking that a step further is, what is the text size that we need to ensure that it is placed in the center and fits properly? So some of the lessons learned from this project and some key takeaways for everybody here that we wanted to share is that this change is not just technical. It's not just going from ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro. It requires user trust. It requires training and communication that actually drives for a successful adoption process. The second is start by replicating what works before thinking of like new features. And third, and I think the most important of it all, is that moving off of ArcMap is achievable with the right approach. You can definitely modernize without losing continuity. And we just wanted, before we move on, we wanted to give a realistic, low-risk example of how you can approach what could be a very big technical migration. So now I'm going to pass it back to Chris, and he is going to introduce us to Chester County's case study where all four approaches come together.
Thanks, Mary. So parcel management is essential for county government, whatever your organization is, whether that's land records, property administration, assessment. We just heard about taxation, NG 911 and emergency services, planning and zoning, but also public engagement. So I'm thrilled to talk about another one of our great partners who's using parcels in all of those workflows in all those departments that I just mentioned, and that's Chester County, Pennsylvania. So we've been working alongside the county's GIS and IT team since 2020, and we've been helping them to advance their GIS goals and build out the vision that they have set forth for their internal workflows as well as the public. Here we've helped to implement the ArcGIS Parcel Fabric and also do some migration of custom data editing workflows from ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro. A couple things about the county: there's over 200,000 parcels, and there's a team dedicated there to keeping this data accurate and current. So some of the challenges that we had to work through was understanding the current ArcMap workflows and trying to find the best way to match the interface and the experience of those ArcMap tools in the new custom tools that were being built for ArcGIS Pro. So I'm going to turn it back over to Mary to talk in a little bit more detail about the great work that we've been supporting the county with. Mary?
Thank you. And before we do dive deep into their implementation, maybe we could take a step back and maybe answer a question for some of you that have not migrated into the Parcel Fabric, and you're looking to do so. So like we start with, what is Parcel Fabric? So at the center of it all, it is a modern framework for parcel management that supports managing, editing, and sharing of your parcel data set, all within a structured model that tracks how and when parcels were recorded. A key factor is that it comes with quality control built in through things like topology and attribute rules. And the benefits do reflect that. At a high level, kind of quick sentence, we would say that the benefits that you get a single system of record, built-in parcel history tracking, stronger data integrity, and a platform that can scale with your organization over time. But also wanted to give the Esri Parcel Fabric team a shout out for their inclusive community that they've created and they maintain, and your ideas too can be used to improvements of the fabric and development of new tools. So let's dive into the Chester County Parcel Fabric implementation. So in the diagram, you see that at the top, everything is centered around the fabric itself. And underneath that is that built-in quality controls like topology, parcel rules, and error tracking. From there, your data, the data itself is organized into records that are connected to parcel types like parcels, which is their active parcels, subdivisions, and the inactive parcels is a parcel type, sort of like a sandbox. So whenever you're ready to promote to parcels, that data is already mapped and ready to go. But for each parcel type, there are lines and polygon layers to that respective parcel type, and your points layer is there for all of your parcel types, reducing gaps and inconsistencies in the data. So now that we've seen the structure of the Parcel Fabric implementation for Chester County, how did we reach success with this implementation? Next slide. So we deployed the Parcel Fabric, which established that modern system of record and foundation for everything else, including road center lines and site address points, Then, I don't know if everyone knows, but when you download Pro, you get these 2 out-of-the-box Parcel Fabric ArcGIS Pro tasks already there built in. So instead of starting from scratch with tasks, we took those files, the record-driven workflows, a task file, and we customized it to the day-to-day editing workflows that the text mapper was doing. And here we're able to guide the user through this ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro migration, taking that burden of learning the click patterns and just focusing on the parcel editing workflows. The third thing that we did was create attribute rules, calculation, constraints, validation, all to support that preventing errors early pillar. Again, it is for data integrity, running automatically in the background. And the fourth and not least is the add-ins. So for the county, it was really important to bring in those specialized workflows that they had already in ArcMap and provide that to their tax editor. So one of the things that we focused on was their add-in for maintaining annotation features, being able to create many or a single annotation feature for the edits that were done in that session. So together, all these 4 approaches were used and it created a more efficient and reliable and scalable parcel workflows. So now we've reached the time where we've covered all 4 approaches. And before we move on to opening the floor for your questions and your comments, I wanted just 2 things that you can take away. Please know that you don't have to do it all at once, and maybe start with the step that makes the biggest impact for your organization. Yeah, I'll pass it back to Chris.
All right, thanks, Mary. And yeah, I can't believe we've already reached the end of our kind of technical discussion, but the conversation is just starting. So I want to thank both Ben and Mary for sharing those examples and some of the insights that come with these parcel editing and parcel management workflows. Before we get into the questions, just again, looking at these 4 main areas that we brought together here, you know, no organization, is complete without one of these, but, whatever your workflow is, wherever you are in your parcel management journey, figure out which one of these or combination of these works best for you and go forth and be successful. If you want to learn more, if you have questions, outside of this event here where you'd like to connect with us, Ben, Mary, myself, and our team would love to keep the conversation going. So we'll have an email address at the end where you can reach out and we can set up a call to discuss, what your parcel management questions may be. So last, before getting into the Q&A, I just want to note that this is a webinar series and we're going to be continuing to do these throughout the year. So I want to share that if ArcGIS Enterprise is critical to your organization's success, you are not going to want to miss our June 4th webinar on that topic. Please come and hear more from our team that talks about how to, make sure that your environment is properly architected and how to navigate keeping current with your ArcGIS Enterprise installations and management. And then we're going to come back in August after the Esri User Conference, and we're going to share our main takeaways around the ArcGIS platform of applications. So if you're going to be at the user conference, stop by our booth, stop by some of our presentations. It's always great to be able to connect in person and share stories, together. So with that, I think we've left about 10 minutes. We will see if there's any questions here in the chat to start with, and also any insights from the poll at the beginning. So I'll turn it over to Nate to help get questions to the team here.
Sure, thanks. So I'm reviewing the results of the Mentimeter. It looks like we have a few GIS analysts, a few people from management, and a few GIS administrators, heavily focused in the state and local government region. And a lot of the questions are about updating workflows that are old, or modernizing them, or decades old bad data, and just jumping into the parcel fabric itself. So from there, does anybody have any questions for us? Our first question. Question is, if I edit or change the vertices of a city limits layer in a parcel fabric, it could automatically change the vertices of a polygon in another layer, like a fire district. Is that achievable in parcel fabric, maybe through topology?
I can take a stab at this question, Ethan. It depends on how you configure the fabric, right? Would you say that like there's going to be administrative layers. So the parcel fabric, you can have your parcel types and administrative layers that are part of the fabric. So I would think that like your fire districts would be one of those administrative layers. But yes, there is a sense of using topology to make sure that any edits that you make to your parcels then are aligned with all of the related kind of administrative layers that you identify and publish together.
Right. Any other questions? You guys can come off mute as well if it's easier.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you. See in the Mentimeter about Cogo, I know from working with Chester County, there are some parcel fabric specific tools that get enabled, like the ribbons in ArcGIS Pro for parcel fabric, and they were very pleased with like some of the new tools available to them, so that made Cogoing a little bit faster, more intuitive, and efficient.
Mary, do you want to touch on the Cogo reader at all as well?
Yes. So one of the tools using AI. So if you let me get my notes together to make sure I'm saying something accurate. There is extract Cogo from deeds. So it allows you, if you have deeds for your parcels that you're maintaining, you can load in the deed file, the text for it, and then it can take out which are your points, the beginning point, the end point, and kind of map that out for you. It has like an editor side-by-side panel, so you can make manual adjustments where it wasn't perfect, and then it could do that build for you, help that build for you. There is constant iterations and improvements to the app. So again, the community itself served to help create the Cogo reader by providing their own deeds. So I know that's constantly being improved.
That is all the questions at this point.
I think we got one more that just came in, Nate.
Is it possible to backdate records, like work backwards through time to build a historic lineage prior to the implementation of a parcel fabric?
Like, you already maintain like the 2024 version or the 2023 version, and you wanted to bring those in as well for your fabric? And maybe Ethan, we can set up time after.
Yep, I've got a question. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, so we're in Knoxville, Tennessee, KGS, and we are moving to the Parcel Fabric. And we have not only Tyler, but we also have Sidwell, Parcel Administrator.
Mhm.
Have you guys successfully moved anyone off of any of those platforms with the Parcel Fabric? Are you familiar with Sidwell's Parcel Administrator?
Yes. We are familiar. To date, we have not. The migrations that we've had, we didn't migrate someone off of those tools.
But we
How
can,
far
Yeah.
how far along are you in the process?
Well, we should have already been migrated. So, we're not yet. So we're looking, it's probably going to be August. Yeah. And we can have another conversation outside of this if you would like to. Like our whole system is set up for the parcels, right? So like, and we've got a very mature system. And so we're moving, like we've got some we have an owner card that like gives the history, like I think what someone was trying to possibly even backdate some records. Like we have an owner card that shows all the past history, past how much it was sold for, and all of that through our website. And the parcel administrator does a really good job of tracking those parcel changes, right? And then we have a view, and then Tyler pulls that down, updates the Canva data, and then we pull it back in at night after all that's done, and then we have our tables and views that are updated. It's very convoluted, and we're trying to get to a simpler system, but with the same amount of data, because there's no way we could change that owner card. People are too dependent on it at this point. But I didn't get to see all of your demo. I'm going to go back and watch it once you guys post it. But we would like to have a conversation with you at some point. And Chris Rice was able to get us connected. So I will send you guys an email. I'd like to talk to you guys at some point. Great.
I just put all of our emails in the chat for you and everyone that offers stands.
And I guess quickly back to the original question, there's other workflows that we've done that kind of mimic kind of the functionality of the parcel administrator that Sidwell has, that we have done for other municipalities. So while we didn't bring someone from the Sidwell parcel administrator, those functionalities were things that we addressed through the implementation.
any other thoughts or questions from the group here? All right. Well, we're right on schedule. We again really appreciate everybody taking time out of your Thursday afternoon to come learn a little bit more about how we are implementing best practices and our experience with parcel management and parcel editing workflows. Ben shared the emails. We also shared the link for our upcoming webinar in June. And of course, the recording here will be shared with all registered attendees. So there'll be that as well if you came in late or had to leave early. So again, really appreciate everybody's time this afternoon. Go have a great rest of the day. And thanks again for attending.
Thank you,
everyone.